Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're diving deep into a pretty fascinating experiment.
Yeah, really interesting stuff.
We're looking at what happens when you put, cutting-edge AI in the driver's seat of a really complex classic tabletop adventure.
Right, specifically a solo Dungeons& and Dragons campaign. The AI was acting as the dungeon master for the 1981 module X2 Castle Amber.
A notorious one.
Oh, definitely. And the goal here, this is important, it was really specific. The user running this didn't just want the AI to, riff on the module.
No.
No, they wanted a faithful reimagining. That's the key phrase. Faithful to the classic adventure, but tailored for just one player character.
So, a serious test then. Can an AI actually replicate running a pre-written adventure, especially one this, well, quirky and deadly?
Exactly. It's a huge ask.
So we've dug into the sources, the campaign logs, all the analysis, and we're going to pull out the most important insights for you.
Yeah, we'll look at what the AI did surprisingly well, where it frankly stumbled quite a bit.
Yeah.
And maybe most importantly, why the human player turned out to be so crucial to making this whole thing work.
Okay, so before we get into the AI's performance, we really need to understand the foundation here. X2 Castle Amber.
Yeah, you got to know the source material. This module, it came out way back in 1981, part of the D&D expert set, designed for characters levels, 3 to 6?
Yep, and it is not your standard dungeon crawl. Not by a long shot.
No way. Its real charm, but also its challenge, is this wild mix. It's got gothic horror, kind of pulpy fantasy elements, and then these just bizarre, almost surreal funhouse moments.
You're basically stuck in this surreal and dangerous mansion with a totally eccentric, cursed family running around.
People call it a dreamlike nightmare.
Yeah.
You find out pretty quickly that logic.
Yeah.
Well, it bends reality twists.
The basic setup is simple, but pretty dire. You're trapped. There's this impenetrable, deadly mist holding you in a pocket dimension.
Right, and the only way out seems to be finding a portal to this other place, Averon, and somehow breaking the family curse.
And the Amber family themselves, the NPCs.
Oh, boy.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
The sources describe them as, unhinged, theatrical, and utterly detached from reality.
Which leads to encounters that are just weird, creative, and often incredibly deadly.
It really earned its reputation for being deadly stuff.
Yeah.
Seriously, if you just charge in and try to fight everything you meet,
Key PK waiting to happen.
high potential for a total party kill, yeah. Even with a full group. You have to be careful. Pick your battles.
And you can really feel the literary influences, can't you?
Totally. Clark Ashton Smith's Averon stories are clearly in there for the setting's feel.
And Poe, right, the fall of the House of Usher.
Yeah.
That decaying, heavy atmosphere.
Absolutely. It all contributes to this really unique, kind of oppressive mood.
Now, doing this solo, that adds a whole other layer of difficulty.
Oh, yeah. This thing was written for, 6 to 10 characters.
Wow.
Usually for solo play, you'd have to scale things way down, maybe give the player some NPC helpers, hirelings, or, seriously buff the character stats.
But the user here didn't do that. Nope. They specifically aimed for a single, unbuffed character. The focus was really on the narrative, the atmosphere, experiencing the story.
Okay, so that brings us right to the user's mission statement for the AI. This faithful reimagining of the X2 Castle Amber module, specifically tailored for a solo player experience.
And that word faithful is doing so much work there.
Right. It wasn't just, hey, AI, make something like Castle Amber. It was stick to the original text, stick to the map.
Exactly. And they laid out some really clear ground rules for the AI to try and achieve that.
Like what?
Okay, first, strict fidelity. Follow the module's text, map, descriptions. Only deviate if it's absolutely essential for solo play.
Makes sense.
Second, and this is a big one, maintain a strict player perspective. Only describe what the character Echo actually knows, sees, figures out. No spilling DM secrets prematurely.
That's crucial for immersion. Keep the mystery.
Totally. They also really pushed the AI on atmosphere. Wanted vivid descriptions, really nail that horror tone.
And the art. They specifically asked for AI images in the style of Keith Parkinson, the classic D&D artist.
Yeah, for key scenes, which is a cool idea. And finally, keep the story flowing, but always let the player make meaningful choices within the encounters.
And the character chosen was Echo, a lawful good high elf wizard. Sounds like a good choice for a narrative-focused run.
Yeah, the user noted he was picked more for story potential than, say, being a combat powerhouse. fits the goal.
So you can immediately see the core tension here.
Absolutely. You've got this AI, which is fundamentally generative, right? It's designed to create, to fill in blanks, to make stuff up.
But the user is demanding almost rigid adherence to a specific, detailed, pre-written script.
Exactly. And the campaign logs, the source material we looked at, it really shows this constant negotiation. The user is constantly correcting the AI.
It's like you said, trying to train a creative writer to just copy something down perfectly.
Yeah, it really highlights that if we want AIs to run published adventures properly, they probably need some kind of like baked-in fidelity mode, something strong.
And Castle Amber, with all its weirdness, its specific encounters, its non-linear paths, it's kind of the perfect stress test for this, isn't it?
Couldn't pick a better one, really. Complex, atmospheric, deadly, and just plain weird, like that boxing match.
Right. Okay, so let's follow Echo. How did his journey begin stepping into this AI-driven nightmare?
It starts pretty atmospherically. Echo approaches the main gate at twilight. And credit where it's due, the AI really nailed the opening scene.
Yeah, what did it say?
It painted this picture with eerie shadows, a palpable sense of unease, mentioned the castle spires twisting at impossible angles, windows glowing with a sickly green light.
Creepy.
And this great little detail, faint, almost imperceptible music, like distant, mournful laughter. Chills.
Wow, okay. And the art came in here?
Right away. User asked for a Keith Parkinson-style image of Echo at the gate, and the AI delivered. Apparently, it really helped set the mood alongside the text.
Cool, so Echo goes in.
He steps under the archway, and bam! Thunderous crash. The gate slams shut behind him, trapped.
Classic.
The music swells up, then fades again. The description of the courtyard kept that tone going. Overgrown, unsettling statues, these grotesque figures, and this really specific kind of disturbing scent description. Damp earth, decay, and something vaguely metallic like old blood mixed with a cloying sweet perfume.
Oh, that's evocative. Okay, so he's inside. Where next?
He follows the music into the foyer, Area 1.
Yeah.
AI describes it as vast, dim, cluttered, disturbing tapestries. Music's louder now, coming from an archway. But first hiccup.
Already? What happened?
The AI apparently described a wide, sweeping staircase directly ahead.
Okay.
But there isn't one there on the map. The user, knowing the module, had to jump in. No, AI, the main stairs are in room 12, the kitchen.
Ah, a map error. A hallucination.
Yeah, exactly. A small detail, maybe, but crucial if you're aiming for that strict fidelity.
Right. So Echo ignores the phantom stairs and goes through the archway.
Yep, into the Grand Salon, Area 2, still following the music, and finds an impromptu boxing ring.
Seriously? Castle Amber.
Right. And there's John Louis Amber, one of the family, plus this bizarre Demos Megan boxer, some guards, and these creepy floating red eyes watching.
Okay, weird. And the AI handled this okay?
Mostly, but here's the other kind of mistake. The AI immediately identified John Louis and the boxer creature as a Demos Megan.
Ah, the player perspective problem again.
Exactly. The user had to correct it. Hold on, Echo wouldn't know what that creature is just by looking. You gotta let the player figure things out.
So what did Echo do? Did he fight the weird boxing creature?
No. Smart wizard. He politely declined the boxing match, asked where he was, how he could leave.
And John Louis
gave this perfectly vague, unhelpful Amber answer. Something like, you're in Castle Amber and leaving is the game, and the castle has a way of holding on to its guests. Creepy stuff.
Typical. So Echo wisely backed away.
You bet. He headed back towards the foyer and decided to check out the Hall of Mirrors, Area 5.
Okay.
He steps in, and instantly, whoosh, all the lights flare up, blinding him.
Ouch. Save versus spells.
He made his save, but was still blinded for 5 turns. Pure Castle Amber trap.
So what did he do? Panic.
This showed some good player thinking. Echo just patiently felt his way eastward, using his staff, found a wall, and waited it out.
Smart. Sometimes patience is the key in these old modules.
Totally. It tests player ingenuity beyond just combat. The AI ran that sequence correctly, following the module rules for the blindness.
Good. So Vision returns. Where to next?
He heads south from the Hall of Mirrors into the study, Area 3, and finds it's been taken over. A dozen Rakasta have made it their lair.
Rakasta? Cat people, right.
Yeah.
Potentially hostile?
Could be. But Echo went for the nonviolent approach again. Open hands, introduced himself. They were wary, but not immediately aggressive. The leader basically confirmed, yep, you're in Castle Amber, leaving is tough. Maybe asked the Ambers about it, gave a bit of info.
And there was an image here, too.
Yeah, you asked for another Keith Parkinson shot, but this time specifically requested a POV horror-based angle. More intense. And the AI apparently redrew the image to fit that request better.
Interesting. Iterative art direction with the AI.
Yeah, pretty neat.
Okay, so Echo leaves the Rakasta. Where does he go from the Hall of Mirrors now?
He heads north this time, into the master bedroom, Area 10, and, another map fumbled by the AI.
And what now?
It initially called Room 10 the Hall of Shields, which is, not correct.
User had to step in again.
Yep. Quick correction reminded the AI of the map. So the actual room, large four-poster bed, curtains drawn. Echo decides to investigate the bed.
Brave or foolish?
Maybe a bit of both. He notices a figure under the covers, something much larger than a normal human.
And the AI. Let me guess.
You got it. Prematurely identified it as an ogre.
Sigh. User correction needed again.
User correction needed again. Echo wouldn't know that yet. Basic stuff. But the AI kept tripping on it.
Okay, so Echo notes the large shape. Does he check anything else?
Yeah, he checks the fireplace.
Yeah.
And finds a body hidden up the chimney.
Jeez. Castle Amber does not mess around.
Nope. And here's maybe the biggest info dump mistake the AI made.
Oh. Worse than the ogre.
Yeah. It not only immediately identified the body as someone named Janet, but it also described the exact cause of death, but broken neck, crushed.
Oh. That's pure DM-only knowledge.
Exactly. User had to firmly correct it again. Emphasize that stuff needs to be discovered through clues in the game, not just handed out by the AI narrator.
So what did Echo actually see?
Just torn silk clothing, signs of a violent end, maybe something about the neck being at an odd angle. Enough to be disturbing, not the whole coroner's report.
Okay, so big figure in the bed, body in the chimney. Echo probably decided to leave.
Wisely, yes. He quietly backed out of the room.
So he's currently back in the Hall of Mirrors, having seen quite a lot already.
Yep. And this whole sequence, this first part of his exploration, it really shows the whole dynamic, doesn't it?
Yeah, you see the module's weirdness, the danger.
Echo making choices, diplomacy, patience, investigation.
And the AI delivering atmosphere, but constantly needing that human correction for accuracy and perspective.
Exactly. Which leads us right into looking closer at the AI's actual performance, the good and the bad.
It seems like the challenges were pretty significant, and the human player really had to step up, almost become a co-DM.
That's a good way to put it. The most common issue, the one that kept popping up, was definitely what we're calling the player perspective problem.
Right, that tendency for the AI to just blurt out secret information.
Yeah, identifying creatures like the demo's Magan or the ogre, naming the body Janet, giving the cause of death.
Yeah.
All stuff Echo couldn't possibly know just by looking.
And why was the user's constant correction so important there? It sounds tedious.
It probably was a bit tedious, but it was vital. Because without it, you lose the core of the game, right?
How so?
It kills the mystery. It removes the challenge. The whole point of D&D often involves the players having to deduce things, investigate, put clues together. If the AI just tells you everything,
It becomes a lecture, not a game.
pretty much, it short-circuits that whole discovery process. The user's corrections kept the immersion and the actual gameplay intact.
Okay, so that was problem number one. Then there were the outright factual errors, the fidelity issues.
Right, the hallucinations. Like that staircase appearing in the foyer where it shouldn't be, or misidentifying room 10.
Yeah.
Map errors, basically.
And again, the human player was the safety net.
Essential quality control. They needed their knowledge of the actual module map to provide those specific, accurate corrections.
And why does that matter so much? A misplaced staircase seems minor.
Well, it ensures the adventure unfolds as it was designed. It maintains the integrity of the game space. Imagine trying to navigate based on faulty AI descriptions. You'd get completely lost and confused.
Yeah.
It breaks the reality of the game world.
Gotcha. Then you also mentioned the AI sometimes just went off script, started making things up that weren't in the module at all.
Yeah, there were instances where it seemed to drift, starting to generate its own details or plot points, moving towards an original story.
Which was directly against the user's goal.
Exactly. The explicit goal was fidelity to X2. So the user had to keep reminding it, stick to the module content. Constant reinforcement was needed to keep it anchored to the original design.
What's really striking, though, is that even with all these corrections, even with the AI seeming to acknowledge them, the same types of mistakes kept happening, especially the player perspective one.
Yeah, and that points to a real challenge for current AI, I think. It's about persistent, granular memory and context.
Meaning,
it's one thing for the AI to understand the rule don't reveal DM info in the moment it's told. It's another thing entirely for it to consistently remember and apply that rule across different scenes, different turns throughout the whole campaign.
It didn't fully learn or internalize the constraint globally.
It seems that way. The user's reminders weren't just helpful, they were necessary because the AI couldn't reliably police itself on that front over the long haul.
So this really does frame the human player not just as a player, but as this collaborative DM, or maybe as the sources called it, a module oracle.
I like Module Oracle because their corrections weren't just about personal preference, like, I wish the room was blue. It was about factual accuracy relative to the source module.
The AI couldn't substitute for that deep internalized knowledge of X2 that the human had.
Nope. Without that human oversight, it just wouldn't have been a faithful run of Castle Amber. It would have morphed into something else.
Which suggests that right now, for running these complex, pre-written adventures with AI, the most effective approach is this kind of symbiotic model.
Yeah, exactly. The AI does the descriptive heavy lifting, maybe handles some basic rules or NPC lines.
But the human provides that essential layer of real-time fidelity checking, course correction, ensuring it stays true to the source.
It definitely redefines the solo experience. You're the hero, Echo, exploring the castle, but you're also simultaneously the module auditor, making sure the AI describes the castle correctly.
And those AI hallucinations, making up facts like map features, that's going to be a major headache for anyone trying to use AI for anything that requires sticking to known facts.
Oh, absolutely. A big pain point. They need better grounding, better ways to know what's fixed and what's flexible.
Okay, but it wasn't all corrections and problems. You said the AI did excel in some areas. Let's talk about that. Crafting immersion.
Yes, let's give the AI its due. In generating atmosphere, evocative descriptions, it was often really, really good.
Those examples from the beginning, right? The shadows, the scent.
Exactly. Eerie shadows, twisted spires, that incredibly specific creepy smell, the discordant music. It used sensory details very effectively to build that feeling of dread and immersion that Castle Amber needs.
It managed that distinction between just being scared and actual horror.
I think so, yeah. It handled terror, that anticipatory dread, like the feeling of being watched, those floating eyes, and also horror, the direct confrontation with the gruesome, like finding the body in the chimney. It delivered on both aspects promised by the module's tone.
And the visuals, the Keith Parkinson-style art.
That seems to have been a real win.
Yeah.
The user reported the AI consistently generated images that really captured that specific iconic fantasy art style they asked for.
And it adapted, too. You mentioned the Rakasta scene.
Right. The user asked for a tweak, make it more POV, more horror-based, and the AI was able to redraw the image to better match that refined request.
That shows a useful feedback loop, the human guiding the AI's creative output.
Exactly, an iterative process. It worked really well for the visuals.
It really points to the power of combining these things, doesn't it? Multimodal immersion.
Totally. You get the vivid text descriptions setting the scene, and you get stylistically consistent images reinforcing that specific mood. It creates a richer, more cohesive feeling than just text or just images alone.
You can easily imagine adding soundscapes, music cues next.
Oh, yeah. The potential is huge there.
But it also highlights something else, the skill of the user.
Good point. Being a good prompt engineer is key here. Knowing how to ask for a specific style like Keith Parkinson, knowing how to give feedback like more POV, that takes human expertise to guide the AI effectively.
So let's pull it all together. What are the big implications here from this deep dive into AI-run Castle Amber? What does it mean for AI in RPGs?
Well, the main takeaway seems crystal clear, really. For running complex pre-written modules, AI is definitely a powerful tool. Huge potential. But there's always a but. There's a but. In its current state, it absolutely requires significant guidance, correction, and oversight from a knowledgeable human player.
So that collaborative DM model we talked about isn't just like one way to do it. It seems pretty essential if you care about fidelity and immersion with existing adventures.
Exactly. It's less about the AI replacing the human DM and more like, imagine a seasoned DM training an apprentice.
The AI is the apprentice.
Yeah. The apprentice AI has talent, right? It can spin descriptions, handle some basic interactions, maybe track initiative.
But it lacks the deep understanding.
It lacks the deep understanding, that precise adherence to the rules and lore of this specific module, and the nuanced judgment needed to run it faithfully. The master the human user has to provide that real-time feedback and guidance.
Which, as you said, creates this whole new solo paradigm. It's not just player versus rules, it's a kind of duet.
A duet is a great way to put it. Player and AI working together. Yeah. The player is both the protagonist and module auditor, the co-DM.
It blurs the lines, which is fascinating. And it could offer a very different solo experience, maybe more dynamic, more conversational, certainly more visual than just reading a book or using random tables.
For sure. These AI platforms could really open up solo RPGs to a new audience, people who maybe found the traditional methods a bit too abstract or requiring too much creative heavy lifting from the player themselves.
So what does the AI need to get better at this? To run modules more faithfully on its own?
Several things, seems like. Definitely better long-term granular memory, remembering corrections and applying them consistently. It needs a much clearer internal separation between DM info and player info, with really strict rules about when it reveals things based only on what the player does or discovers.
Right, no more blurting out secrets.
Exactly. And it needs to be primed more heavily with the module data itself. Treat the map, the NPCs, the key encounters as fixed facts. Its creativity should be focused on describing around those facts, not changing them.
Learning from corrections is key too, not just acknowledging them, but generalizing the principle.
Absolutely. Maybe it needs less of a pure text-based understanding and more of a structured, almost database-like grasp of the module's components and rules, an ontology of the adventure.
So for you listening to this, if you're thinking about trying an AI DM for a classic module, what's the takeaway?
Be prepared to be an active participant. Don't expect a perfect hands-off experience, especially if you care about staying true to the original. You'll likely need to guide it, correct its mistakes, provide that quality control.
But also maybe embrace its strengths.
Yeah, definitely. Be open to its creative descriptions, its ability to generate atmosphere, maybe use its visual capabilities, as long as the core elements of the adventure remain intact.
And maybe remember that Castle Amber specifically is really deadly.
Haha, yes. Good point. If your goal isn't just extreme difficulty in a solo run, you might still need to think about adapting things, scaling encounters down, maybe bringing in an AI-controlled hireling, using any recovery mechanics the module offers. The AI might not automatically balance it for solo play unless told to.
Okay, so wrapping this up, this deep dive into an AI tackling Castle Amber, it shows us huge potential, right? AI as a DM tool, especially for solo play, making it more dynamic, more immersive.
Yeah, it can generate amazing narrative moments, incredible atmosphere, even nail specific visual styles if you guide it.
But here's where it gets really interesting, I think. It also shows, pretty definitively, that for capturing the real soul, the intricate details, the fidelity of a classic, complex adventure, the AI isn't quite ready to be a fully autonomous replacement DM.
Not yet, anyway. Its power, its effectiveness, is hugely amplified when you pair it with a knowledgeable, engaged human player who acts as that vital co-DM.
Guiding it, correcting it, making sure it stays true to that weird, wonderful, deadly source material.
The success wasn't really AI or human, it was AI plus human. A collaboration.
Which leaves us with a final thought, maybe something for you to chew on. If these sophisticated AIs still need so much active human help and correction to run a specific, pre-written adventure faithfully, what does that tell us about what it really means to master and interpret any complex creative work? Whether that's a D&D module or a novel or a piece of music, what does faithfulness to a source truly entail?